You mentioned also besides PERS, roads, schools, and bridges.
Yes.
Okay.
Where we want to do in the spending of the money, and now I'm going to put my economics hat on. I'm also going to put the hat on that I have of service on the city council that I've had almost 2 terms on.
Okay.
The political impulse is to take the money that comes in and spread it broadly over a number of areas. I call it wide and thin. But you're more effective if you pick an area and focus on that and go narrow and deep in terms of the kinds of projects that you want to do. Mm-hmm. And we've done that in the city over the last 5-6 years where I've had the pleasure of serving. We've had a particular focus on roads. That applies to the Treasurer's office in that every 2 years, the Treasurer's office submits to the governor and the legislature the amount of debt capacity that the state has. And then it goes to the state legislature and the governor makes recommendations, the state legislature goes to work on it. I want to make sure that we take those dollars that we can say we have to spend and make sure we're getting the biggest bang for the buck. You have very capable staff throughout the state of Oregon on all of the different departments. I want to get their input as to where we can maximize the returns on those dollars we're spending on behalf of the public.
Okay. And so when I had Dennis Richardson in,
Yes.
The other couple weeks ago, he deals a lot with money as Secretary of State, you know, if he does win that.
He does.
So how would you work with the Secretary of State's office so people can kind of compare and contrast the management of the 2 offices?
Certainly. The Secretary of State has 2 primary functions. One is the elections and making sure all elections throughout the state, working through the counties, are conducted fairly. They also have the responsibility every 10 years for redistricting to make sure all the districts are of comparable size throughout the state.
Okay.
The other function, where it relates to the money and the performance of the various state agencies, is the audit function. And that's in the Secretary of State's office. And the audit function has 2 subsets of that. Number 1 is just, did you put the money in the right box? And number 2 is the performance audit side. For example, if a department said, we are going to deliver with the money that you're giving us, 250 miles of road each year for the next 2 years, then you can go audit that to see, okay, did the department deliver 250 miles of road each year for 2 years?
So honesty is really important as Secretary of State.
Honesty is very important in the Secretary and in every elected office. And for that matter, it's important in any job any person would have, be it in the private sector, the nonprofit sector, or in the government service.
Okay. As a treasurer, how would you, why would you think you would do better than your opponent?
That goes to the 40 years of experience that I have in the financial field, the MBA I have from the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School of Business, which is acknowledged as one of the best schools, business schools for Masters of Business in the country and indeed the world. It reflects on my volunteer experience where I've either been the chair of the organization or the treasurer of the organization. It reflects on my elected experience where I've had to deal with the city budgets. As a side note, this may sound a little odd, but I keep on my nightstand next to my bed, I've got a copy of the budget and the audited financial statements for the city. Those are things that I go through. I find them incredibly interesting and useful, but that's me. And that's the kind of activity that you want. It's the depth and breadth of experience that I bring, and the other part is I have no interest in being anything other than Treasurer of Oregon. I want to serve 8 years as the Treasurer of Oregon, beholden to no one but the people of Oregon, and then I'll be done. My opponent wants to be Governor of Oregon. He views this as a stepping stone to the governorship, and he doesn't have the background and the depth and breadth of experience that I have.
You know what? That rings to me of a problem if somebody uses something as a stepping stone, because then you can be open to bribes and that. And now I'm not sure, and you haven't said anything about that, but is that a concern that voters should take to the voters' ballot? You know, is
It's always a concern, and the challenge of money is always there. My opponent is a good person. I'm not going to suggest that he's not a good person.
Okay.
But when you compare, as you said in your question to me, about why am I a better fit for this position of treasurer, it's the depth and breadth of my experience. This is not a stepping stone for me. I want to be your treasurer, beholden to no one but the people of Oregon, and then I'm done.
Okay. And give us a testimony of something that you have been a treasurer of that blossomed.
Certainly. Well, the most recent example, there was the one I've been the treasurer of the foundations for the Legacy Hospital Emmanuel system in the Portland metro area. And I'm the past treasurer of USA Olympic Swimming, which has been a marvelous organization. While I was treasurer, and I've remained engaged with USA Olympic Swimming, I mentioned serving as an official at the Olympic trials, and Michael Phelps just swam remarkably well.
All right.
But the organization, when I became the treasurer, was fiscally solvent. It stayed fiscally solvent even as we grew the organization with more membership. And I was responsible for reporting to the board as it met on a regular basis during the course of the year, how we were doing financially. And as I call it, most people don't speak number.
Yeah.
Their eyes glaze over when you hear that. But so it was my responsibility to recognize that most people don't speak number and take the speaking number, and I'll call it translating it into English so that everybody else can follow what's going on. And I do a pretty good job at that.
Yeah, well, I think so. You're explaining yourself interesting because
Thank
I
you.
am somebody that my eyes glaze over. You can ask my husband.
Yes, okay.
I like to keep things simple and,
Certainly.
yeah.
Certainly.
So having somebody in depth that can explain themselves is very important.
And that's something, at the core of my belief, is the object. When you're in an elected office, you want to not only inform and persuade your colleagues, be it on the city council and the state legislature and statewide elected office, but even more importantly, you want to inform and persuade all the residents of the state. And so my commitment is going to be on a regular basis, being out all over the state, talking about the role of the treasurer's office, what has been going on, what is going on, and what is anticipated to be going on, so as to inform everybody, to persuade everybody as to the path that I'm suggesting or the path that we are going down is indeed the best way.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Any last words?
I am looking forward to serving as Oregon's next treasurer. I bring a depth and breadth of experience that really hasn't been there very infrequently over the last 100 years in Oregon's treasurer's office. I don't view this as a stepping stone, and I've been out very public with my opposition to Measure 97. So those would be the three things: depth and breadth of experience, not a stepping stone, and my opposition to Measure 97.
Okay.